A Brief History of the United States by John Bach McMaster. Travel Collection 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Chad Horner from Ballyclare in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, situated in the northeast of the island of Ireland. A Brief History of the United States by John Bach McMaster. Chapter 1. The New World Found. The New World, of which our country is the most important part, was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. When that great man set sail from Spain on his voyage of discovery, he was seeking not only unknown lands, but a new way to Eastern Asia. Such a new way was badly needed. The routes of trade. Long before Columbus was born, the people of Europe had been trading with the Far East. Spices, drugs, and precious stones, silks and other articles of luxury were brought, partly by vessels and partly by camels, from India, the Spice Islands, the Cathay, China, by various routes, to Constantinople and the cities in Egypt, and along the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, where they were traded for the copper, tin, and lead, coral, and woolens of Europe, and then carried to Venice and Genoa, whence merchants spread them over all Europe. The merchants of Genoa traded chiefly with Constantinople, and those of Venice with Egypt. The Turks seized the routes of trade. While this trade was at its height, Asia Minor, from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, was conquered by the Turks. The caravan routes across that country were seized, and when Constantinople was captured in 1453, the trade of Genoa was ruined. Should the Turkish conquests be extended southward to Egypt, as later they were, the prosperity of Venice would likewise be destroyed, and all existing trade routes to the Orient would be in Turkish hands. The Portuguese seek a new route. Clearly an ocean route to the east was needed, and on the discovery of such a route, the Portuguese had long been hard at work. Fired by a desire to expand Portugal and add to the geographical knowledge of his day, Prince Henry, the navigator, sent out explorer after explorer, who, pushing down the coast of Africa, had almost reached the equator before Prince Henry died. His successors continued the good work. The equator was crossed, and in 1487 Dias passed the Cape of Good Hope and sailed eastward till his sailors mutinied. 10 years later, Vasco da Gama sailed around the end of Africa, up the east coast, and on to India, and brought home a cargo of eastern products. A way to India by water was at last made known to Europe. Columbus planned a route. Meanwhile Christopher Columbus planned what he thought would be a shorter ocean route to the east. He had studied all that was known of geography in his time. He had carefully noted the results of recent voyages of exploration. He had read the travels of Marco Polo, and had learned that off the coast of China was a rich and wonderful island which Polo called Cipango. He believed that the earth is a sphere, and that China and Cipango could be reached by sailing about 2,500 miles due westward across the Atlantic. Columbus seeks aid. To make others think so was a hard task, for nearly everybody believed the earth to be flat, and several foreigners were appealed to before one was found bold enough to help him. He first applied to the King of Portugal, and when that failed, to the King and Queen of Spain. When they seemed deaf to his appeal, he sent his brother to England, and at last, wearied with waiting, set off for France. Then Queen Isabella of Spain was persuaded to act. Columbus was recalled. Ships were provided with which to make the voyage, and on Friday, the 3rd of August, 1492, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina set sails from Palos on one of the greatest voyages ever made by men, the voyage westward. The little fleet went first to the Canary Islands, and thence due west across the Sea of Darkness, as the Atlantic was called. The voyage was delightful, but every sight and sound was a source of new terror to the sailors. An eruption of a volcano at the Canaries was watched with dread as an omen of evil. They crossed the line of no magnetic variation, and when the needle of the compass began to change its usual direction, they were sure it was bewitched. They entered the great Sargasso Sea and were frightened out of their wits by the strange expanse of floating vegetation. They entered the zone of the trade winds, and as the breeze, day after day, steadily wafted them westward, the boldest feared it would be impossible to return. When a mirage and flights of strange birds raised hopes that were not promptly realized, the sailors were sure they had entered an enchanted realm. Land discovered. Columbus, who was above such fear, explained the unusual sights, calmed the fears of the sailors, hid from them the true distance sailed, and steadily pursued his way till unmistakable signs of land were seen. A staff carved by hand and a branch with berries on it floated by. Excitement now rose high, and a reward was promised to the man who first saw land. At last, on the night of October 11, Columbus beheld a light moving as if carried by hand along a shore. A few hours later a sailor on the Pinta saw land distinctly, and soon all beheld a few miles away a long low beach. The voyage among the islands. Columbus thought he had found one of the islands of the Indies, as the southern and eastern parts of Asia were called. Dressed in scarlet and gold, and followed by a band of his men bearing banners, he landed, fell on his knees, and having given thanks to God, took possession for Spain and called the island San Salvador, which means Holy Saviour. The day was October 12, 1492, and the island was one of the Bahamas. After giving red caps, beads and trinkets to the natives who crowded about them, Columbus set sail to explore the group, and presently came in sight of the coast of Cuba, which he at first thought was Cipango. Sailing eastward, landing now and then to seek for gold, he reached the eastern end of Cuba, and soon beheld the island of Haiti. This so reminded him of Spain that he called it Hispaniola, or Little Spain, the first Spanish colony in the New World. When off the Cuban shore, the Pinta deserted Columbus. On the coast of Haiti, the Santa Maria was wrecked. To carry all his men back to Spain in the Little Nina was impossible. Such, therefore, as were willing were left at Haiti, and founded La Navidad, the first colony of Europeans in the New World. This done, Columbus sailed for home, taking with him 10 natives and specimens of the products of the lands he had discovered. The voyage home. The Pinta was overtaken off the Haitian coast, but a dreadful storm parted the ships once more, and neither again saw the other till the day when, but a few hours apart, they dropped anchor in the haven of Palos, whence they had sailed 7 months before. As the news spread, the people went wild with joy. The journey of Columbus to Barcelona was a triumphal procession. At Barcelona he was received with great ceremony by the king and queen, and soon afterward was sent back with many ships and men to found a colony and make further explorations in the Indies. Other voyages of Columbus. In all, Columbus made 4 voyages to the New World. On the 2nd, 1493, he discovered Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and other islands. On the 3rd, 1498, he saw the mainland of South America at the mouth of the Orinoco River. On the 4th, 1502 to 1504, he sailed along the shores of Central America. Returning to Spain, he died poor, neglected and broken-hearted in 1506. Columbus believed he reached the Indies. To his dying day Columbus was ignorant of the fact that he had led the way to a new continent. He supposed he had reached the Indies. The lands he discovered were therefore spoken of as the Indies, and their inhabitants were called Indians, a name given in time to the copper-coloured natives of both North and South America. Spain's claim to Newfound lands. One of the first results of the discoveries of Columbus was an appeal to the Pope for a bull securing to Spain the heathen lands discovered. For a bull had secured to Portugal the discoveries of her mariners along the coast of Africa. Pope Alexander VI accordingly drew a north and south line 100 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands, and gave to Spain all she might discover to the west of it, reserving to Portugal all she might discover to the east. A year later, 1494, Spain and Portugal by treaty moved the line of demarcation to 370 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands. Map, page 20. And on this agreement, approved by the Pope, Spain rested her claim to America. End of chapter 1 by John Bach McMaster. This recording is in the public domain.